Okay. Let's dive in. We've got a really complex, kind of highly charged story on the table today. It's one where, paternity tests, some pretty scorched earth revenge tactics, and, well, the fate of a baby all just collide dramatically. So our mission for this deep dive, we want to walk you through the absolute latest twists around the baby known as Tesoro, or Torto, or Little T from Days of Our Lives. And this isn't just a recap, right? We're aiming for a full analysis. Legal stuff, emotional fallout, the biological truth that just got exposed.
That's exactly right. I mean, what kicked off as a fairly standard, okay, maybe scandalous teen pregnancy story, it's blown up. It's a full-on legal fight for custody now. And the tension is just
It's
in it,
moving.
right? Because that
Sure.
critical 30-day window, the one where the biological mom, Sophia Choi, could legally change her mind about the adoption that's officially expired, Tesoro is legally up for placement, period.
And the whole foundation, the whole story they started with, it just crumbled instantly. All thanks to one key piece of evidence. Ray Fernandez ran that DNA test, the definitive one, on Tate Black and the baby. And the results, not much room for doubt there.
No, none at all. They were conclusive. It showed, without a shadow of a doubt, Tate Black is not the biological father. And that bombshell, that's the linchpin for everything that follows. It forces this frantic search for the real dad. It throws Sophia's motives into serious question. And it brings, 4 different families, each with pretty strong claims, but also some serious baggage, right into the mix for this baby's future.
Yeah, 4 groups. Okay, we have a lot of ground to cover. Let's start with the immediate shockwave from that DNA result, like specifically how Sophia reacted when her whole story just fell apart.
Okay, yeah, let's jump right into that immediate fallout. The person who had to deliver the news, this life-altering news, was Sarah Horton. She's the doctor dealing with the case. So she tells Sophia Choi, point blank, Tate Black, not the father, definitively excluded. Now, what's really fascinating here, and the sources really dig into this, is Sophia's reaction. Because even though, analysts, viewers, lots of people kind of saw this coming based on the timeline character stuff, Sophia herself, she seemed genuinely shocked, like floored by it.
That initial shock, it says a lot, doesn't it? It sort of suggests this deep, deep level of maybe self-deception. Because if she was just being purely manipulative the whole time, she probably would have seen the test result coming, right? But her being genuinely surprised, it makes you think that maybe, in her own head, she'd somehow convinced herself Tate was the father, maybe as a way to cope or justify things.
That lines up perfectly with what the sources are suggesting.
Yeah.
That she was, to some degree, kind of in the dark herself. They literally say she would have thought Tate was Tesoro's dad forever if Sarah hadn't stepped in with Rafe's hard evidence. So it paints that initial deception maybe less as this long, calculated con and more like a desperate attempt to create a story that worked for her, made her actions seem okay.
That little window, that moment of maybe self-delusion, it slammed shut pretty fast when Sarah started asking the obvious next question. Sophia's shock just seemed to flip right back into full obstruction mode. She absolutely refused, point blank, to name any other potential father, which, creates this instant legal and ethical mess.
Oh, absolutely. That refusal, it immediately shifts her status. She goes from maybe being self-deceived to actively obstructing everything. I mean, she's preventing the biological father from getting his legally required chance to even know about the child, let alone claim him. And that lack of cooperation, that's exactly what's fueling Sarah's frustration now and her distrust.
And Sarah had plenty of reasons to distrust her already, didn't she? Didn't Sarah confront her before about lying, about where the baby was initially placed? Sophia claimed the safe haven room at the Salem firehouse, right? And while Sophia apparently gave some kind of explanation for that lie, Sarah was clearly still not buying her overall story.
Exactly. Sarah's skepticism is kind of the story's moral compass at this point. She sees Sophia's whole attitude as just selfish and terrible, especially that dismissive idea Sophia has that Tate and his dad, Brady, will just, get over the whole baby thing.
Yeah.
For Sarah, this isn't just about medical facts anymore. It's about emotional closure. It's about preventing more psychological damage to Tate.
It's that complete lack of empathy, really, that seems to be driving Sarah to keep digging. Which brings us right to this push for more testing, doesn't it? Because Sarah's still dealing with Sophia's, let's say, questionable story about the whole birth situation.
Precisely. Sarah has hair samples that Sophia herself provided. And the sources are indicating that Sarah, or maybe Rafe, is going to run a really critical second DNA test. This time, Tesoro against Sophia.
Okay, wait, hold on. If we know Tate's not the dad, why test the baby against Sophia, the person saying she's the mother? Like, what's the legal or medical need to confirm the mother's identity at this stage?
It's actually pretty foundational, especially given Sophia's track record now. Specifically, that lie about the firehouse. They need solid, irrefutable proof that Tesoro is actually the firehouse baby and that Sophia is his biological mother. Think about it. The social worker, the court, anyone making an adoption decision, they need to know the maternal line is solid, especially when the person claiming to be the mother has already lied about huge details, like where the baby was born and who the father was.
Right, okay, that makes sense. You need to lock down every known variable before you proceed. And the key thing allowing this test to happen, the sources point out, is that Sophia actually gave permission when she handed over the samples.
That permission is huge. Yeah, it basically cuts through a ton of red tape. If Sarah, acting either as a concerned doctor or maybe working with Rafe on the law enforcement side, does the test herself, the fact that Sophia explicitly consented, it helps dodge serious problems like health information privacy issues on Time A's stuff, basically, in the
Yeah.
U.S. context. Giving consent effectively weighs a lot of those specific privacy rights right here.
Okay, so Sarah has the tools to confirm the mother-child link. But even when she has that full picture, Tate's out, Sophia's the mom, she still can't just shout it from the rooftops, right? Professional limits.
She really can't. Sarah can't just walk up to Tate or Brady Black and lay out the whole truth. Sophia's lies, the confirmed paternity exclusion, doing that could violate patient privacy depending on how her first interactions with Sophia went down. And it could totally mess up any official investigation Rafe might be conducting.
So her goal isn't total transparency for Tate, it's something more targeted. Her main focus is making sure Tate gets that one crucial piece of closure, knowing he is definitively not a teen dad whose baby was put up for adoption. That's the core thing for him.
Exactly right. So Sarah's strategy has to become one of, careful legal maneuvering. Ethical compromise, maybe. She can't expose Sophia directly, but she knows the truth has to come out. For Tate to heal and for the adoption to proceed honestly. So her plan, according to the sources, is to nudge somebody in the right direction, which probably means slipping information strategically or placing evidence where another key player in Salem, maybe Rafe, maybe a lawyer, can find it, piece it all together, and bring the whole truth out officially.
Huh. It's like a high-stakes chess game. Sarah's the hidden hand trying to guide things towards justice. But this whole search for truth, this whole drama, it all hangs on one massive question now. If Tate isn't the father, who is? And that takes us straight into Section 2.
Right.
The second that DNA test ruled Tate out, the spotlight just swung, didn't it? And based purely on the timelines, the ones laid out in the story, the source material is pointing really, really strongly towards one person, Aaron Green.
Aaron Green is absolutely the prime theory.
Yeah.
And the details the narrative gives are so specific, it almost feels like confirmation even before they, officially test Aaron. We kind of have to go back over that exact, very messy, very emotional situation that seems to have led to Tesoro's conception.
Ah, yes, that scene. It's basically become the key to the whole timeline, hasn't it? The pregnancy seems linked right back to one specific day, one encounter between Aaron and Sophia. We know they were hanging out. They watched that movie, Body and Soul, ate some cake. Sounds innocent enough on the surface, but the context, oh wow, the context is brutal.
The context is absolutely everything. This happened almost a year ago now. And it was immediately after Tate Black made that huge, devastating mistake in bed with Sophia. He called her Holly Jonas's name. And that moment, that humiliation, that betrayal, Sophia realizing she was just second best, or maybe just a rebound, apparently drove her right into Aaron's arms. For comfort? Maybe. For immediate revenge? Also possible.
An emotional rebound that seems to have created a biological consequence. The sources are super specific that this small, really emotionally loaded window seems to be the moment Tesoro was conceived. What makes this all so much more dramatic now is Aaron's current situation.
He's completely in the dark, utterly oblivious. Aaron's still off at college, no idea he's at the center of this huge paternity mess, no idea that a child he might have fathered is currently up for adoption. And that ignorance, it's basically a ticking time bomb for the whole legal process.
And the source material adds this interesting layer to Aaron's character about that night, too. It wasn't like a secret he was desperate to keep from everyone forever. He was trying to keep it from Tate. The story reminds us he actually tried to confess to Tate a few times about sleeping with Sophia. Suggests his conscience was already bothering him about it,
Oh, yeah, that detail's crucial because it really affects the emotional fallout when this all comes out. Aaron won't just be hit with the shock of suddenly being a father.
Yeah.
He'll also realize Sophia actively lied to him, deceived him, and let another guy, Tate, take the fall for almost a year. And apparently he genuinely likes Sophia. The sources strongly suggest he's going to feel incredibly betrayed by her hiding this.
Betrayal. leading straight into massive legal problems, especially now with the adoption process officially moving forward.
Right. If or maybe, when Aaron's confirmed as the biological father, his rights kick in immediately. And there were significant rights, mainly because of this huge legal oversight by Sophia. The sources are very clear. Aaron was never officially notified about the child's birth.
Okay, so what does that actually mean? Failing to notify a potential biological father in an adoption case. Why does that give him so much leverage now?
It just throws a massive wrench into the standard adoption timeline. In many places, and definitely within the drama logic of this story, biological fathers have a legal right to be notified of the birth, and given a specific window, sometimes pretty short, to step up, assert their paternity, and claim custody rights if they want them. Because Sophia actively hid who the father was, Aaron never got that chance. He was completely denied that opportunity.
So he basically never got his day in court, legally speaking. And because of that, the adoption just can't proceed smoothly without dealing with his newly discovered status.
Exactly.
Hmm.
His finding out late could halt the entire adoption process cold. If Aaron comes forward, files something asserting he's the father, the court has to deal with that before placing the child with any non-biological candidates, like Johnny and Chanel. He'd have a really strong argument that his basic due process rights were violated, which means the adoption agencies, the court, they all have to be incredibly careful now. Because if they place the baby with Johnny and Chanel, for instance, and then Aaron is proven to be the dad and decides he wants custody, that placement could potentially be completely undone, reversed.
Wow, that raises the stakes enormously for everyone. The idea that this whole thing could be blown up by an unnotified college kid.
Right.
It's huge. Okay, so while Sophia was busy hiding that truth, she was apparently also waging war on some of the potential adoptive parents. Let's pivot to Section 3, the adoption sabotage.
Yeah, this brings us right to Sophia's vendetta against Johnny Tamara and Chanel Dupree. They're obviously high-profile candidates, seem like a good fit on paper maybe, but they're absolutely the main targets of Sophia's really deep-seated anger. She was actively, and the sources make it sound almost gleefully, trying to just torpedo their adoption chances.
And she picked the worst possible moment to do it, didn't she? Right when the social worker from the adoption agency was actually there, observing them, assessing their home.
The timing was everything. Yeah. She used this like two-pronged attack. First, she sent these naughty texts, made them look like they came from Holly Jonas's phone. The goal there was pretty clearly to suggest that Johnny and Chanel were either involved in or at least allowing some kind of scandalous, inappropriate stuff involving a minor right there in their home. And at the same time, she sent this incredibly damaging, scathing letter full of accusations straight to the adoption agency, or maybe more specifically to Child Protective Services, CPS.
Okay, let's just quickly clarify that distinction, because who she sent it to really matters, right? Sending a nasty letter to the adoption agency is one thing, bad enough. But involving CPS, Child Protective Services, that's the agency that investigates child abuse, neglect, endangerment. That's like the nuclear option. It implies something way more serious.
Oh, absolutely. Shifts it from just a review of their suitabilities as parents into a potential full-blown investigation of abuse or neglect, which, if substantiated even slightly, would instantly disqualify them. Sophia wasn't just aiming to get them rejected. She was probably hoping to get them blacklisted entirely.
So what's driving this level of fury, specifically against Johnny and Chanel? It feels like it goes deeper than just, bitterness about giving up the baby.
It's pure revenge, calculated revenge against Johnny specifically. The source material confirms it. Sophia is still absolutely raging because Johnny apparently ruined a previous adoption plan she had months ago. This was before Tesoro was even born. Sophia saw that earlier plan as a perfect answer to all her problems, like a way to quietly solve her pregnancy situation. And in her mind, Johnny screwed it up.
Okay. So she blames Johnny directly for her current mess, which leads straight to this really spiteful post-birth payback attempt.
Exactly. That explains why her actions were so targeted and malicious. It wasn't random anger. It was specific payback for what she saw as a past betrayal. However, Johnny and Chanel actually managed to fight back successfully, mostly through some quick thinking and, crucially, with help from Ray Fernandez.
Okay, how did Rafe manage to save them? It must have taken some solid proof to debunk those texts, right? Technical evidence.
Rafe's evidence was apparently decisive. Yeah. He provided proof. The sources say proof that Holly Jonas physically could not have sent those texts. Maybe confirmation of where she was or some tech evidence from the phone itself. Whatever it was, it immediately blew Sophia's main accusation out of the water.
And the second Rafe provided that alibi, or whatever it was, Johnny's mind just Clicked. He was able to do the math pretty easily, realizing Sophia was basically the only person in town with that intense, long-standing grudge, the only one motivated enough to pull off such a nasty, perfectly timed stunt.
All the pieces just fit, right? The timing of the text, that scathing letter, combined with the grudge over the first ruined adoption. It became crystal clear that the letter sent to the agency or CPS was just pure malice, fueled entirely by this old personal beef.
And the outcome, thankfully for Johnny and Chanel, is that their chances weren't totally destroyed. Rafe's good word, as a respected figure, plus that hard proof debunking the text and showing the letter was just lies. It means they're still strong contenders. Actually, you could argue that weathering that kind of attack might even impress the social workers in a weird way.
It could. It shows they're stable even under extreme pressure. They prove they have a support system, maybe legal help, and the smarts to figure out and neutralize a threat aimed right at their home. It proves they can handle external chaos, which is actually a pretty big plus for potential parents.
That sets things up perfectly for the final decision-making process. Let's move into Section 4. Let's really analyze the 4 groups now competing for Tesoro and the specific hurdles each one faces with an adoption agency.
Right, so the baby's legally available, the adoption is active, and the sources have really zeroed in on these 4 distinct groups or individuals. The real drama now is looking at their fitness, versus their specific histories and problems.
Okay, let's start with candidate 1, Johnny DeMera and Chanel Dupree, the ones who just fought off Sophia's attack.
Their pros are pretty significant. They seem financially stable, they're actively trying to adopt, and like we just discussed, they successfully cleared their names, showed resilience, resourcefulness. Johnny figuring out Sophia was behind it shows he's sharp. And yeah, the narrative definitely seems to lean towards them as maybe the most likely outcome.
Okay, but what about their potential cons? Or, what lingering questions might an adoption agency still have even after they beat Sophia's sabotage attempt?
Well, the main thing is probably past instability, right? Johnny comes from the DeMera family, which is notoriously volatile, let's say.
Yeah.
And while he and Chanel seem stable now, the agency's job is to look at the long term. They'll look at their histories, Chanel's past career ups and downs, Johnny's family drama, and they have to be sure this current stability isn't just, temporary. So they won the battle against Sophia, sure, but getting that final stamp of approval still depends on the agency deciding they're suitable for the long haul. And that process is always super cautious, very bureaucratic.
Okay. Now, candidate 2, Javi Hernandez and Leo Stark. They've got a huge emotional advantage going for them, but their pasts. Whew. Their pasts are loaded with complications.
Yeah, their pros are really practical and emotional. They've been deeply involved in actually caring for Tesoro. Rafael Hernandez is technically the official foster dad, but Javi, Leo, Gabi Hernandez, Ariana Horton, they've all been pitching in, providing that day-to-day care, which means Tesoro has already formed real bonds with them within that family unit, and Javi and Leo have openly talked about adopting Tesoro themselves. That shows serious commitment.
But they know they have baggage. They've identified their own obstacles. Let's break down Javi's past first. I mean, this is just tragic. And a huge hurdle in any adoption case, surely.
It's absolutely devastatingly tragic.
Yeah.
Javi's terrified his history. Having a young daughter who died tragically in a hot car incident back in Texas will just automatically rule him out. And from a social services viewpoint, it's a massive red flag. Even if the incident was ultimately ruled an accident, it still represents a catastrophic failure in parental judgment or supervision, resulting in death. The agency has to ensure something like that could never, ever happen again, which means intense psychological evaluations, background checks, supervision plans, the works.
And then you pair that history with Leo Stark, who has actual past arrests, a documented history as a professional con man. Putting those 2 histories together, it just seems incredibly difficult for an agency to overlook.
They absolutely worry about that combination, yeah. Javi's tragedy plus Leo's moral flexibility, let's call it.
Yeah.
They worry it'll just look like too much instability, too much risk. The agency will dig into Leo's criminal past. They'll look for patterns of dishonesty, manipulation. They have to ask, can we trust this man to always put the child's needs first? Or is he capable of slipping back into his old cons?
It makes you wonder which obstacle weighs more heavily for an adoption agency, a horrific, tragic accident like Javi's, or a history of deliberate, intentional criminal behavior like Leo's.
And that's the really tough ethical question the writers have set up, isn't it? A social worker might see Javi's past as this terrible tragedy that, while awful, doesn't automatically mean he'll neglect a child in the future, especially if he's had therapy, shows stability now, etc. But Leo's past as a con man, that represents choosing to break the law, often hurting others for his own gain. Intentional criminal history often feels like a steeper hill to climb than even a severe accidental tragedy, just because of the element of deliberate choice.
Okay. Let's move to candidate 3. The real wild card here. Aaron Green and potentially the whole Green family. Their chance hinges entirely on that paternity test coming back positive.
Right. If Aaron is confirmed as the father, that biological connection, it outweighs almost everything else if he's deemed a fit to parent. And that legal argument we talked about, his not being notified, that gives him immediate legal standing to potentially stop the adoption and fight for custody himself.
And the sources hint that if Aaron does step up, his family might actually rally around him.
Yes, his family structure seems like it could be a strong support system. His mom, Kat Green, his sister, Felicity Green, they might step up. That offers the possibility of a bigger, supportive family environment for Tesoro. They might be thrilled to have a new nephew or grandson and could actively help Aaron, who's still young, still in college, actually raise his son.
But the cons are all about Aaron himself right now. His age, his life stage, his total lack of awareness. He's still in college. He's completely stunned by all this, presumably.
That shock translates directly into instability from the court's perspective. He's had zero time to process this. He hasn't shown any ability to parent because he didn't even know he was a parent. He might not even want custody once the shock wears off. And the agency, the court, they had to slam the brakes on the adoption to do a full assessment of his sudden new reality. His finances, his housing, his mental readiness to raise a kid while finishing school. If he does decide to fight for custody, the court has to do serious due diligence on the whole Green family situation before they place the child there, biology or not.
Okay, finally, candidate 4. Amy Choi, Tor's grandmother. She kind of represents that kinship connection, but without the direct paternity issues.
Amy's been consistently involved, hasn't she? Right from the start. She was the one pushing hard for Tate and Sophia to get married, raise the baby together. That showed her commitment to keeping the baby in the family, her desire for that traditional structure, which Sophia, of course, rejected for adoption.
And she's shown that deep grandmotherly connection too, right? Noticing little family resemblances.
She definitely has. The sources make a plate of her emotional connection, saying she felt this real vibe with the kid, even noticing Tesoro looks like Sophia's little brother. Now that the decision is legally out of Sophia's hands, Amy might see this as her moment, her chance to step up, fight for her grandchild, argue that kinship care is always better than placing a child with strangers.
But her big con, her obstacle, it's kind of the flip side of everyone else's problem. It all comes back to Sophia's continued lies and deception.
Exactly. How can Amy make a truly informed decision to take custody, and how can the agency trust her judgment if she doesn't even know the full truth? Does Amy know Tate isn't the father? Does she grasp how much Sophia lied about the safe haven thing? If Sophia is still hiding crucial facts from her own mother, well, that makes the agency question Amy's ability to provide a truly honest, stable environment. They demand transparency, full knowledge of the child's background.
What's really interesting across all 4 groups, though, is how strongly the source material believes this baby isn't going anywhere outside this core group.
That seems to be the key dramatic rule here.
Yeah.
The sources explicitly shoot down the idea that some random couple will just show up and adopt Tesoro. The baby has to end up with one of these known candidates, or maybe with Aaron's family if he's confirmed as the dad. It keeps all the emotional and legal drama tightly focused on the main characters, maximizes the impact no matter who wins.
So we've laid out this scenario. A child is officially available, the biological clock is ticking loudly for Aaron Green to find out he's a dad, and we have 4 intertwined groups standing before the adoption agency. Each one has a decent claim, but also some serious problems they need to overcome. #tag outro.
So yeah, to sum up where things stand, the tension is palpable. The adoption clock officially ran out, making the whole process active live. Tate Black is confirmed out. That makes Aaron Green the highly probable but still unnotified father. Sophia's nasty sabotage attempt against Johnny and Chanel, it failed. That keeps them arguably in the lead position. And now, the agency, or the court, has to weigh Johnny and Chanel's current stability against Javi and Leo's troubled history but strong bond, against Aaron's biological claim mixed with total instability, and against Amy Choi's kinship claim potentially clouded by her own daughter's lies.
Okay.
That's a lot.
It really is a perfect storm of legal questions, emotional ties, and messy relationships. You've got Sarah Horton still maneuvering behind the scenes, trying to make sure the biological truth surfaces, at least for Tate's sake, which could accidentally speed up finding Aaron. You've got Amy Choi, driven by that powerful grandmotherly instinct, and the agency itself is stuck choosing between, the known issues with Javi and Leo's past or the completely unknown chaos that Aaron Green's sudden appearance could unleash.
The dramatic weight is just immense. Every single decision from here on out has potentially life-changing consequences for little T.
Okay, so here's the final thought, the provocative question we want to leave you with as you process this really, really deep dive into Salem's latest adoption crisis. Given Sarah's determination and that huge legal challenge just waiting in the wings with an unnotified father, what does the adoption agency prioritize? Is it stability, which maybe points to Johnny and Chanel? Is it biology, which means Aaron Green? Or is it that established bond, the care already given by Javi and Leo? And maybe more importantly, if Aaron is confirmed, who tells him? The potential parents, the social worker, the court. And how does that single notification completely reset the clock on Tesoro's future? What stands out to you as the most dramatic, maybe the most compelling possibility for where little T ends up?